Hello everyone, my name is Blackwatch. It's good to be back, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a topic that's been very relevant to me in the last little while. Kind of relevant to anyone when it comes to games. This isn't necessarily just about Siege, but it does apply to Siege, and that's the notion of just having fun in games. Now, a lot of people play games to be competitive, and I totally get that. I tend to play ranked modes whenever the option is there, especially if I've got a team of people who enjoy playing the game that I enjoy playing. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that that doesn't wear on you sometimes. I know that a lot of the time when you're playing long enough, especially if you're playing a game that's quite difficult, you're going to get that burnout, and the drive to keep on playing and keep on coming back and keep on trying to keep that same intensity all the time is eventually going to wear you down to the point where you just don't want to approach it anymore. And I've had a few friends recently who are feeling that exact way with Siege. And there's other factors that bring that into light, namely the rampant cheating on console in the form of mouse and keyboard players. Talked about that at great length many times before. But even just the case of constantly being on edge to win, it's a draining thing. In the same way that any athlete during a competition, or, and I know this is a bit of a wide-reaching comparison, I'm not suggesting that Siege players are athletes. In fact, I can definitely attest to not being one, but at least in the moment, I'm going to be hench, don't worry boys. And it's a level of focus that is pretty severe, and it does take a toll on you, even if it's not exactly the most physical of sports. It is still a sport by the basis of it being a competition between individuals based around a skill that has an outcome that is determined by the employment of that skill. And it comes in many forms, depends on how you play, what you play, but anything that pits you and your individual prowess against another person's prowess is going to take a toll on you. I'll give a perfect example. Fighting games. I don't know about you, I love fighting games, but if I'm playing multiplayer in fighting games, you'd be lucky if I can get 3 or 4 matches into a session before I'm sitting there going hyperventilating, because it's a lot of tension out of nowhere that you then need to deal with, because especially with fighting games, there's no teammates you can fall back on, there's no, oh well, you know, next time it's just this, that, and the next factor, and no, they're just better coordinated than us. That's one person versus you, one person, and one person needs to accept that one person got his ass handed to him by another person, and that's not always easy. So what I try to encourage, not just in other people, but especially in myself, because I do often find myself pulled away from the more competitive games that I love because of the fact that they have that constant character destroying nature to them, like Smite, like Hunt Showdown, like Siege. I'm just a glutton for punishment. My entire gaming library is a sadist's dream, essentially, whilst I'm sitting here head of the masochist society ready to flagellate myself one more time. That's not as bad as it sounds, don't worry. Well, it is bad, but not in the context you might be thinking, because I had 8 at the end of it, don't worry. So it's one of those things that I definitely need to employ more often myself, because I do find myself getting into those situations more than I should. And instead, what I want to encourage people to do is try and find fun in games outside of the win. And I say the win specifically rather than competitive, because you could be playing a load of casuals in Siege and still be sitting there and your only focus is on gotta get the dub, gotta get an ace, gotta get 15 kills in the first 10 seconds of the round. It's not possible. But you could try. And if you keep on trying to do that, you're only going to drive yourself insane, because it's not possible. So we need to find that middle ground, where we have something that's going to engage us enough to want us to keep playing, but that's not going to drive us insane, because it's impossible to achieve. So therein lies the problem. So what's the solution? Find other things. You ever played Strat Roulette with your mates? Perfect opportunity. You get an app, or just the imagination of your friends, and you decide these are the guys that you're going to pick, these are the guns that we're going to use, and we're going to try and do as well as we can in this period of time, and it's going to be great. Or if you don't like that, there's plenty of other things. So let's look outside of Siege. Let's look at Hunt. So in Hunt, we like to do what's called a naked run. A naked run is when you go in with nothing but a nasty looking melee weapon and an angry disposition. The idea being that you can run into someone who's not expecting it, and they're sitting there with a very expensive Mosin Nagant that they smuggled from Russia into New Orleans, and their brand new Colt conversion pistol that's been modified to hold rifle rounds, and you smack them in the head with a shovel, or something equivalent to a shovel that's just as funny, makes as much of a dong noise when it smacks them in the head, but it's still lethal. And then all of a sudden, oh no! I dropped my weapons, and he's coming for them. What can I do? And there's nothing he can do, because all of a sudden, his weapons are now yours. You reap the rewards of your anger, and your willingness to swing at people with metal objects that are likely to kill them. So if you cave the guy's head in, you've had some fun. I like to think so. I know that at the end of a good session of caving people's heads in, if I can say that I've had fun, I know that I'm having a good time overall, outside of that. So, if that's the criteria I'm going by, I'm sure you can find some creative ways to have fun in other games. I don't know, play Smite. I'm joking, don't play Smite. It's a terrible idea. If you want to have fun in games, don't play Smite from Hi-Res Studios. Because it won't make you have fun. It'll give you crushing personality defects based off of the rampant bullying perpetrated by others for the slightest mistakes. Because boys, you could be telling them all game, enemy missing middle, but you choose to rotate one time into right lane, and during that rotate you don't have clairvoyant vision into middle lane, and you don't tell the solo laner in left lane that your middle lane target is left, you rock. Cancel that. Every single time, over and over and over again. I know that for you hardened Siege fans, you rock cancel that might not seem like the most biting criticism that you can receive. But believe me, I would take being called a scrub hard stuck plat noob any day versus being called, or not being called, but being told, you rock, cancel that, because it's like someone dangling the carrot over the pig's head. You rock. Like, oh really? I thought I was having a rough time of it. Cancel that! Just yanking it away from you. And then you've lost everything. You've lost your dignity, your sense of self-worth, probably the game as well, because when they get into that mentality, they just want to throw. But it is what it is, boys. Sometimes you just got to deal with the hard knocks of life. But please, endeavour to have more fun when you play games. Because what is a game if it's not fun? It's a chore. Far too often nowadays, people are turning games into chores, and they shouldn't be. The Battle Pass is a huge part of that, because it's taken what most people knew as the original progression system, the OG classic of earning XYZ, completing XYZ objective, and then getting a reward based on the complexity of the thing that they'd achieved, and instead it's turned it into almost like a time quota to unlock rewards that you're then never going to have access to again. FOMO is pushing the industry in really bad ways, and it's something that needs to be addressed. It needs to be talked about more, and people need to be more willing to basically let companies know that we're not going to be happy with what's coming through. We need to give explanations for that, because far too often there's a lot of baseless, unhelpful data that comes out of player bases where they're basically just sounding off on something in unison, but not really giving any improvement points. This is something that I definitely try myself to improve, because I have been known in the past to go off on things and then not really offer a solution, even though I'm trying to say that it can be solved easily. If it can be solved so easily, tell people how. It's quite simple in my opinion when it comes to battle passes. Don't make them limited. Let people play when they want to and still earn the rewards that they paid for, because ultimately this whole idea of the benefit of paying for the rest of the battle pass tiers, obviously being a source of monetization for that company, yeah, maybe in some fringe cases and in the cases of the whales who will buy the full pass at the very start of the season, but to punish the regular player who maybe doesn't have the time, or maybe has other games that they want to play. It does, I mean, I know for a fact from first-hand experience, I've found a lot of games that I have had battle passes in, and to begin with, doing those battle passes, I'm quite enthusiastic about the game, enjoying playing it, but when the game starts to become about the battle pass, especially if the game's whole system is pretty much geared to show you your battle pass progression at all times and to make it a staple part of the gameplay experience, or not necessarily the gameplay experience, but the progression and reward experience, then yeah, you're going to be looking at that progress and thinking, god damn, this is slow. I'm really taking a while to get through this. And I don't know if I want to be spending all this time grinding a game just to get through the pass, because I am literally just watching a meter go up and I'm not thinking about the game. I'm thinking about the reward that I'm going to be getting in 2 levels. But the difference is, the rewards aren't always the most enticing, and you can go for massive stretches of time without anything you're interested in. On the other hand, you look at old systems, like in Halo, the way that you earned armor in Halo 3, that's some exciting stuff. Go find the skulls in campaign, that's a regular achievement on its own, but bam, you're now a ninja. Ninja Gaiden. And all of a sudden people want to do it, and it's just different. It's not driven by how much can we keep you captive on our game by enticing you with rewards that are going to take time and essentially a laser focus on our game until we decide to artificially remove them from you forever. Kind of tangented on this video a wee bit, but I feel like it's worth talking about. I really do, because I think that is one of the things that is preventing people from having fun in certain games. If you look at the likes of Halo Infinite, the way that released, so many people were coming out saying this is the Halo multiplayer experience that we've been looking for years. Yet that has been hampered so heavily by the really poorly mishandled monetization scheme in the game. I mean, just monetization that's predatory, that has been noted as showing rewards that were originally in the Battle Pass, which was going to have 120 reward tiers in it. They then got stripped down because they knew that they could instead take those rewards, turn them into bundles by giving them an arbitrary name, like, I don't know, Gunblast Shogadigo, and a description saying something like, I don't know, birds enjoy the sky, armadillos burrow underground. And all of a sudden, that's worth, 1,000 big ones in the game, or 2,000 big ones. And it's just artificially inflated. Ultimately, players are kind of limited to how they can set the value of these things because they're dictated to by the developer. What I would hope to see is that the players are willing to not only acknowledge their ability to hopefully influence these decisions, but to actively boycott the decisions that are being made that are totally in detriment to the player base. And I don't care if you say that it's all cosmetic, I don't care if you say that you don't have to have it, you can still enjoy the game. The way that games are structured nowadays, rewards, customization, it's all ingrained as something that should be expected. In the same way that I think it would be perfectly reasonable for people to complain when games started asking people to buy a brand new copy of the game or to not have access to the multiplayer component, so 50% of the game, without paying a premium. That was called an online pass. That came about kind of 2010 to 2013-14. That was predatory microtransactions to a T. And that kind of monetization got shut down very quickly because people had a negative response to it, because people didn't pay for it. Now, what you have instead is an industry that will always try and get a leg up on the player. It's always going to be the case. It's a business. They're trying to make money. And I'm not going to begrudge them for trying to make money because they put huge amounts of man hours, time, effort, creative passion from the points of obviously the people who are actually creating the product for the most part. And I don't think it's an unreasonable thing for them to ask to be duly compensated for that, especially if they're then going to continue to provide free content. they should be getting compensated monetarily for that. And I think that going down the route that games have gone, where it's games as a service, free to play, not necessarily my favourite model, but certainly free post-launch support on a premium title, I think that's the way to go. But there are ways to make money that are legitimate, fair, and desirable for the player, that do good things for the player and would actually encourage them to want to spend that money rather than to feel compelled to spend that money. And there are other ways, like what Halo is doing, that are underhanded, disingenuous, and are taking advantage of players who are used to things that have happened in the past and who are maybe now willing to accept that the models are changing and are just kind of writing it off as, well, that's just the way it is, so I'm going to put my money in. That's not the way it is. If a pass was intended to have a certain number of rewards and they've then taken those rewards away from us, sorry, remember, they're robbing you. Straight up. Because it was their intention to release it as part of the wider package. But they saw a money-making opportunity to strip that content away and resell it. Similarly, to do this armor coating thing, got a very bizarre response when people complained about that, complained about a convention that has been a part of this series for, well, since its inception, so over 20 years now. Apologies for kind of rolling in every now and again, and there's going to be numerous cuts in this because I've got an ongoing cough that will not go away. They expected people just to be like, oh yeah, sure, armor coatings, that's a cool idea, I'll go with that. I'm not going to complain about the fact that for years, me and, you know, maybe my friend who's no longer playing or no longer around, or a family member, or just me, have been using, let's say, my classic one, white primary, blue secondary, as my armor scheme for God knows how long. Let's take that, completely discount it, even though that's a legacy feature, and we're all about protecting the legacy in Halo, and instead we're going to have preset armor coatings. What's the benefit of those, 343? Tell us, please. Well, you can have patterns and textures and things like that that you can't have if we let you customize it yourself. Right. Therein lies the issue. Why can't we customize that? Oh, well, you know, but there's only one reason, boys. It's because they want your cash. Because they know if they lock this stuff behind a paywall and they go, hey guys, how you doing? I know you don't want this emblem. I know you probably don't want this stance or this weapon charm, but how about you look like Iron Man when you put this coating on? Let's give you the chrome red and chrome gold. How does that sound? And I know chrome's not correct because obviously chrome is chrome, but you get what I mean. Shiny metallic gold and red. Would you pay 20 quid for that and then just get all the other stuff in so that we can try and artificially justify that price? I'd like to think that your response would be, Glasgow Tennis Federation, but you never know. So that's, again, one of those situations where we need to take a look as players, take a look at ourselves, take a look at the company that's trying to pull this and go, are we really going to let them get away with this? Am I really going to let them reach into my pocket that deep? Because that's kind of, you know, you better stop. You got a bit of a wandering hand in there, Microsoft. You just, hey, hold on a minute. That's not a Bratwurst. That's my elongated wallet. And you're pulling all my 20s out of it. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a lot of money. And I think we have respect enough as players to let the crew know when this is too much. Thankfully, there seems to be a lot of movement in the Halo side in particular to let us know that, yeah, we think this is kind of sketch as well. So don't worry. But it extends beyond Halo, it extends into Siege, it extends into bloody every game, you know, they're all pushing it in some way or another. And my only point is, number one, as I said earlier in the video, don't let fun be a hostage to grindy mechanics that are intended to steal not only your money, but your time. And when it comes to those mechanics and other associated ways of making money in that way, be vigilant, be vocal, be constructive when you're being vocal, but make sure that you don't take it lightly. because otherwise that's how they keep on pushing the bar further, and you never know what the next creative fleecing scheme is going to be in this wonderfully strange industry that we call gaming. Anyway guys, it's been a pleasure to have you join me here. If you've watched to the end, thank you very much. Consider liking, subscribing, doing whatever you want, disliking if you hated the video. Obviously you can't have a physical impact on the channel anymore with that, for some reason. I quite like seeing the dislikes, but hey ho. I mean, I can still see them, you just can't, but I thought it was nice to have it public anyway. But until the next time, I hope you like my mic. Apologies for my raspiness and sometimes out of breathness. Trust me, it's because I'm ill. And I'll see you in the next one, where we'll be talking about something else. Do svidaniya, everybody. Bye bye.